because Pop Mart and Funan restocked their labubu. So people were actually queuing for labubu to buy labubu. I tell y'all, the queue is not those short queue one, no. The queue very long, even longer than any anaconda in the world.
Yes, today we are going to be talking about labubus, everyone's favorite topic. Hi everyone and welcome to another video. So a couple of days, weeks, months, I'm not sure like what even is time, right? Last year, a while ago, officially last year, I posted a short where I talked about my unpopular opinions of labubu, and that video got a lot of views and a lot of engagement as well, which I am incredibly grateful for, so thank you so much for that. But the topic of labubu itself is incredibly fascinating to me because it's such a big thing at the moment, especially within the Southeast Asia region, that I got into a little rabbit hole trying to figure out why exactly is this toy famous? Like, why is it such a big trend? Why is it that whenever I go out to the malls, I will see about like 10 people having labubu keychains in their bags? I wanted to dig a little deeper into this topic, and I decided, to share my findings with everyone, to those who might not be familiar with labubus or why labubu has become such a phenomenon and such a trend within a certain community as well. There's a great article that gives you a crash course on what labubus are and why is it popular, and this article is posted by Business Insider back in November, and I highly recommend everyone to read it if you guys are curious. And in fact, that article actually informs a lot of this video, so check it out. The link should be in the description down below. So let's just get into it. Labubu is created and designed by the artist Kasing in 2015, so they're quite recent actually. Lung is actually a pretty prominent artist, becoming the first person of Chinese descent to win the Illustration Award. The design for Labubu is actually very much informed by the Nordic folklore because Lung moved to the Netherlands sometime in the past with his family and has since then worked around the area of Europe, and Labubu is actually created as part of this roster of characters called the monsters. It should be noted, while labubus can be classified as toys, they're not necessarily children's toys. They are what we call designer toys, and they are designed more as like fashion pieces rather than something that you would use to, play make-believe as you would with, children's toys, if that makes sense. We will dig a little deeper into that topic a little bit later, but just bear with me. Just keep in mind that these toys are not, meant or designed the same way that maybe a Barbie doll is designed. Labubus are usually sold in this store called Pop Mart, which is a Chinese toy company that is mostly known for selling collectible designer toys, usually in blind boxes format.
It's a blind box, so you don't know what's inside.
So for those people who don't know what blind boxes are, basically, you know how like with toys, they come in packaging like in boxes that have cutouts so you can see inside what the toy looks like. So with blind boxes, these toys are put in a box that doesn't have those cutouts, but in the back there is, like a list of the characters and the designs that are available within that toy line, if that's the correct word. So basically it's just like you're buying the toys blind and you cross your fingers that you will get the exact toy that you want, and if you don't, you buy another box in hopes that you will get it. It's quite like a genius marketing move. It's definitely designed in a manner that people will keep going back to the point that they will get the toy that they want. But it's also become increasingly common for people to just buy blind boxes in bulk.
So normally I just, get the whole set.
The Financial Times credited Pop Mart in creating a market for these designer toys, and they actually said that Pop Mart has elevated toy buying to an act of trendy connoisseurship among China's young affluent consumers. Pop Marts are very popular in the Asian region, and when I say popular, it's like really, really popular. While there are definitely more Pop Marts opening up in the West, I would definitely say the biggest audience are still, Asian people living in those areas. Like in Australia, there are pop marts opening up, but the main target audience and the main people who still shop there are Asians. Maybe people who are, from overseas staying in Australia, or maybe people who are experiencing Asian diaspora as well. But yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely more people in the West who are starting to appreciate designer toys sold in pop marts. But for those people who might not be aware of how popular these pop mart toys are, Business Insider compared the popularity of pop mart items in Asia to the popularity of squishmallows in the West.
Let us speak aloud.
I would say the comparison is not entirely accurate. I guess in terms of like phenomenon, I would say it's similar-ish with a little bit of difference, and we will talk a little bit about it later. But I definitely understand why Business Insider would compare the popularity of Pop Mart to Squishmallow, and I think the comparison will do at the moment. But I will add another comparison onto this list, and that comparison is actually Jellycat.
But of course, I don't want to get you sick. There is raw egg in this, so we've got to cook the other side. So we'll flip her on.
Just keep those comparisons in mind while I am talking to you about how popular these labubus are. I would say the biggest reason why Labubu is incredibly popular is because of celebrity endorsement. I wouldn't pinpoint it to like one celebrity, but one celebrity definitely had an impact in creating such a meteoric rise to Labubu's popularity. And that person is Lisa of Blackpink.
Hi, this is Lisa.
The thing is, celebrity endorsement is nothing new at all. This is definitely a marketing technique that brands have definitely done, way back when up until now, and they're starting to include influencers into the mix as well. But the thing is, celebrity endorsements have started to evolve. So it's no longer like putting a face onto an ad, shooting a commercial with them, or having like billboards with them plastered on. But things are definitely now what you would say like more natural. So now it could also include things like you see a celebrity wearing something or having something, and then they post it on Instagram, and then people identify what that thing is, and then people go out of their way to buy that thing, if that makes sense. So what happens with Lisa is that Lisa posted a photo of her with a labubu, and everyone's like, oh my god, it's so cute, and Lisa likes it, so let's buy it. And so people, they see Lalisa from Blackpink having this, cute item, they go out of their way to buy this item as well in order to kind of have like points of similarity with Lisa of Blackpink, because it's nice to have something that a celebrity that you like own, because it just makes you feel like you're closer to them. And so there's like an element of parasocial relationship with this. And the thing is, Lisa keeps making it known that she really likes Pop Mart toys, to the point that she talks about Pop Mart in an interview with Vanity Fair.
Is that hard to get?
Vanity Fair does this thing where they have like a list of rising A-listers, even though, they're already like A-listers. But anyway, they have this list, and then Lalisa is in this list alongside the likes of like Zendaya and Glenn Powell. So for Lisa's segment, she talks about, her love for Pop Mart. I would definitely say this is something that Lisa has an interest in, but because Lisa has an interest in these items, and specifically Labubu, this is something that sparks a lot of people's interest and, the way that people are clamoring to buy these Labubus. I have to say though, there's just something really interesting about the impact of K-pop idols on sales of products, because there's this thing that happened in, I think 2019, where Jungkook of BTS mentioned that he uses a Downy detergent, I think. Oh, a Downy fabric softener. But because of that little shout out, people just went out of their way to buy these fabric softeners, to the point that, if I'm reading this correctly, 2 months worth of products got sold out in South Korea, and the stock value increased by 11% that day. I'm assuming that day of when Jungkook mentioned that he uses the fabric softener. And that is just insane. Eventually, Downy does end up having a collaboration with BTS, but this was before they did that shout out, by the way. So I guess in a way, I can definitely see this being something like, oh, Lisa actually genuinely likes Pop Mart items, and then she that's why she keeps talking about her love of these toys. But it can also be another thing where they gradually start collaborating together. Either way, because of Lisa's influence and Lisa continuously talking and posting about her love of Pop Mart and labubus, that definitely has an impact, and it encourages people to buy these labubus. And that is probably why these labubus have such a big market and a big audience and a big consumer base. Another reason why I think labubus are incredibly popular is because, you know what, it's a trendy thing. It's a fashion thing, right? As I mentioned before, labubus are designed to be designer toys. They're definitely not something that, you design because you want to create or encourage play within children, though that hasn't stopped children from owning these labubus, but they are definitely not designed in mind to be something that children would play with. I have never owned a labubu and I've never touched a labubu before. I don't know how good the articulation of their arms, their legs, or if they have any, articulation with their limbs at all. But these labubus are definitely designed not to be something that you play with, but something that you wear as a fashion statement piece. Sort of like how in Selling Sunset, sometimes they use chairs instead of purses because, why not? So they are designed to be keychains, like oversized keychains that you put on your bags or maybe your keys. And they are designed, to be shown off. Which brings me to my next point. Joey Kong, the trends manager from the marketing research firm Mintel, said, "Toys hold nostalgic value, offering comfort in an unpredictable world while also serving as affordable luxuries in a time of reduced disposable income to the rising cost." This quote is actually in the Business Insider article, and you can definitely see why this quote is put in there. In a way, I feel that labubus have become kind of like this symbol of wealth. Not necessarily wealth in the sense like, oh my god, I'm so rich, I can afford Louis Vuitton bags and things like that. But just like a symbol of the fact that you do have the disposable income that you can buy these toys. And these toys, I would say, are not that cheap. The YouTuber Aini did this really great video essay about East Asia and the obsession with luxury items, and I definitely encourage you guys to watch the video because it's very informative. But I would definitely say that the obsession in East Asia with luxury items definitely apply to Southeast Asia as well to some extent. In the video essay, Aini talks a lot about the notion of independent and interdependent self, and I would like to apply those concepts in our analysis of a labubu consumer. So when you're purchasing something, there might be two reasons why you would purchase that thing. First of all, because that thing brings value to you and you feel good when you're purchasing that item. But another reason why you might like purchasing that item is because you like the way that people perceive yourself when you are seen with that item. So when you purchase an item because it makes you feel good, you are purchasing an item for your independent self. But if you purchase an item because you think people will view you well for owning that item, you are purchasing something because you're adding value to your interdependent self. So while the purchase of labubu can be for your interdependent self in the sense that, oh, you like buying labubus because they're cute and they make you feel good, but I can see how the purchase of labubus can tie to your interdependent self because it adds value to the way that people perceive you. So maybe when you are seen with that labubu, people will think like, oh, you do have that, disposable income to buy these labubus, but they can also think like, oh, this person is also very trendy, just like how Lisa is also very trendy because Lisa also owns this Pop Mart and labubu toys. Another similar concept that Aini talks about in her video is also the concept of private meaning and public meaning to items. And those concepts are also similar to the independent and interdependent concepts as well, in the sense that the purchase of labubus can have a private meaning to you privately. Maybe the purchase of labubu is nice because you do think they're cute and they do make you feel good when you look at them or when you have them in your bag because, I don't know, like you like how soft they are, maybe, I don't know. But the purchase of labubus can have a public meaning. When people see you having that labubu, people will think that you're trendy. So what does this have to do with labubus being a show of wealth? Let me just tell you that Pop Mart items are not cheap. And we talked briefly earlier about the blind boxes that these Pop Marts sell. Going to Pop Mart and buying one item, that's not going to happen. Chances are you will go back to Pop Mart and then buy more items, right? So when you add up all the costs, it's not going to be that cheap. With labubus, it's not just like one thing. It's kind of like Barbie, where you have like a base doll, but they have like all these different clothes. So the same thing happens with labubu. So you can purchase 2 labubus and they can look completely different because they have different clothes, they have different accessories. Maybe they have, you know, a little bit of varying designs as well. So yeah, you can buy as much labubus as you want and each of them can look incredibly different. So again, the cost will rack up. And let's not forget as well that labubu themselves are part of this character roster called the monsters. Well, I don't think the other monsters are not as popular, justice for the other monsters. But if you like labubus enough, you might consider buying the other monsters if you do actually like Kasing Lung's designs, or maybe you just like labubu. Who knows? What do I know? But I want to talk a little bit briefly about how pricey these labubus are. So according to Business Insider, the smaller dolls cost about like $15 to $20, but the bigger ones can cost up to $85. And I've actually seen some limited edition ones being sold by resellers for about $100. It's kind of like a Taylor Swift concert situation, though I would say that labubus will not be as pricey or as exclusive as Taylor Swift concert tickets. But there's also this thing of people buying them at Pop Marts in bulk and then reselling them, because not every place have Pop Marts and maybe like they can, you know, sell them for a profit as well. And not to mention as well, there are counterfeit labubus too. It's sort of funny because you would automatically assume that counterfeits only happen for like branded items. I would say like it doesn't happen exclusively for that, but it's just the way that labubu have become, you know, kind of like a luxury item of sorts, to the point that there are so many counterfeits. Actually, counterfeit labubus have become so common to the point that Thailand's Prime Minister's Office Minister issued a public warning against fake labubus. That's right, a PSA. Be careful. The final reason why labubus are incredibly popular, and I would definitely say this is something that maybe not a lot of people realize they're doing, I think it's because of the community that is built surrounding it. So let's go back a little bit to the Squishmallow and Jellycat comparison. The reason why I don't think the Squishmallow and Pop Mart items comparison is completely solid is mostly because Squishmallows are not designer toys. They're definitely toys designed for kids that just so happens to find an audience with adults because, you know, they're cute and they're very soft and they're very nice to touch, you know. So I can see why adults are very drawn to Squishmallows. And I don't think that Squishmallows are necessarily as pricey or as exclusive as labubus are. It's probably easier to find Squishmallows because you can find them being sold in places like Target or Kmart. So they are not as exclusive as labubus, where they are mainly sold in Pop Marts or certain novelty shops or resellers online as well. And Squishmallows are definitely not designed to be designer items as well, whereas Pop Mart items are designed, you know, to be something that you show off as like a fashion statement pieces. So they're like keychains that you put on your bags, or they're something that you can like, you know, put on your clothes, whereas Squishmallows is just something that you can just hold. So yeah, that's why I don't think it's like the perfect comparison, because Squishmallows are not designer toys. I would say like Jellycat is probably a more apt comparison because, you know, with Jellycat you can use them as like keychains, because some of them are designed to be keychains and some of them are designed to be like bags and stuff too, right? But I can definitely see why Business Insider made the comparison of labubus to Squishmallows, because both of them, you know, are toys in a sense. But I think what they're specifically talking about is the emotional comfort that people find in these toys, because, you know, like people think they look cute and that makes them feel good. Not that I think that labubus are cute, but, you know, I see why people would think they're cute. But another point that I think is incredibly interesting that Business Insider pointed out is the way that toy makers even target adult loneliness. I wouldn't go so far to say that the people who buy labubus are lonely. I don't think that's the case. I think these people do have like a thriving social life from what I see, you know, when I go to the malls. But something that I would like to extrapolate from that argument is the fact that the act of buying and collecting and even displaying or wearing your labubus is sort of like a community activity in a way. So bear with me. Minale did this incredible video essay about merch. She's talking more about like band or movie merch, but I think the argument that she made in that video can also be applied to why people buy and also, you know, display their labubus. In a way, labubus have become like a social collateral or a social capital to some people. It's sort of like the same way that I really like Spider-Man, right? So I have a lot of Spider-Man shirts and Spider-Man merchandises, and if I go out and then there's another fan who likes Spider-Man and they see me wearing like Spider-Man merch, they're like, oh my god, a fellow Spider-Man fan. And there's like a sense of community there. So it's kind of like that when you see people, you know, like fellow people having labubus, you're like, oh my god, yeah, like we're two peas in a pod. We like the same thing. And I guess you have the option to strike up a conversation with them, being like, oh my god, I like that labubu. Where do you get that? I want that too. Or which labubu do you like? Have you seen this new labubu? And stuff like that. But there's also a way in which, you know, sometimes maybe like if you're not as familiar with labubu as, you know, the people within the Asian region, like you can come up to the person and be like, what is that thing you're wearing? Like, tell me a little bit more about it. So it also serves as a little conversation starter if you want it to be. Personally, it can't be me because I'm scared of people, but some people do like striking up conversations based on stuff that people do own. So yeah, something that I would say as well is that, you know, there's definitely also an online community of people who likes labubus. Like it's such a popular hashtag on TikTok, and a lot of people also sell toys, you know, online. So there's also an online community created from these toys as well. So yeah, community, family. So to conclude, based on the Business Insider article and the research that I've done myself, I think the biggest reason why labubus are incredibly popular is because, you know, trends. People purchase these toys because they see that they're trendy, famous people love them, owning them is somewhat of a show of wealth. But on the other hand, there's also a sense of community that can be created from the act of like buying, purchasing and posting about these toys as well. To be honest, I'm kind of curious and I'm wondering like if at any point will the labubu craze die down. I don't want to be pessimistic, but if it does die down, what will the next trend be? Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and you found the topic as interesting as when I researched about it as well. And I hope that this video was a good crash course in telling you guys what labubus are, and it's also a good kind of like exploration and analysis on why they are incredibly popular. If you like this video, please like, comment, drive up the engagement please, and maybe even subscribe if you want. I do post daily shorts about random things, so if you like those things, why not subscribe? Might as well. Before we end this video, just a quick question. Do you like labubus? Do you own any labubus? Or maybe something more general, like, do you like going to Pop Marts? Have you been to Pop Mart? I've never been to a Pop Mart actually, but I've seen them around. Anyway, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.